Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the GSMC Basketball Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Meryl Fatemi. Getting into our next segment here, we're going to take a look at the Los Angeles Clippers held off the Denver Nuggets last night. Another spectacular finish in this series. Two games, two absolute thrillers of games, back to back, and I've previewed this as probably my either favorite or second favorite series. It's either them or the Golden State Warriors Rockets series, one of the two. But this Clippers team has been absolutely fun to watch down the stretch, going up against the Denver Nuggets, who were NBA champions 2 years ago, still with the best player in the league. We were in for an absolute treat in this series, and it has not underwhelmed at all by any means. The Clippers winning this game 105-102. A major big shout out to Kawhi Leonard in this game, finishing with 39 points. This was vintage Kawhi Leonard. This was Toronto Raptors Kawhi Leonard that showed up last night in Denver. 39 points, 15 of 19 from the field, only missing 4 shots the entire night. 4 shots. 15 of 19 from the field, 4 for 7 from three-point range. His mid-range game, down the stretch especially, was butter. Was like just pure. Every time he shot the ball from mid-range, fall-away jumper, you knew it was going in. It's his signature shot. We know it's his signature shot, his signature shot. But Kawhi Leonard is a player that's been underrated, has been underappreciated. Kind of similar, not kind of similar, but kind of it is his own fault. But Kawhi Leonard, especially down the stretch, has played as like a playoff performer, has played like a top 5 player in the league once again. But that mid-range shot, that signature shot made him look like Toronto Raptors. I can't compare it to anything else last night. It was something. It was just nostalgic is the only way to describe it. Ivica Zubac and Jokić having their battles in the post once again as top 5 centers in the league. Zubac's really growing into that role. But, of course, we know Jokić. Jokić finishing with a triple-double, 26 points, 12 rebounds, 10 assists, having another spectacular game. He did struggle from the free throw line down the stretch, which was a little bit of an alarming issue. We remember at the end of game 1, once again, he also missed 2 free throws with under a minute to play, something we don't really see from star players in the NBA. It's gonna be really interesting to see if teams start kind of scheming against that, trying to use like a hack-a-shack kind of move on Jokić, intentionally fouling him down the stretch in close games. That's just a thought. But Jokić obviously having another great game. Jamal Murray finishing with 23 points. Michael Porter Jr. finishing with 15 points, 15 rebounds. His best all-around game that we've seen for a while out of him these playoffs. But overall, this game was about the Clippers. This was about Kawhi Leonard, James Harden finishing with 18 points, continuing to play well. Norman Powell growing his confidence down the stretch, hitting a timely 3 in the last few minutes of the game, keeping the Clippers in it. Overall, this was about the Clippers. Especially remember at the tail end of game 1, a lot of key turnovers in that game, finishing with 20 turnovers for the Clippers, but 2 key turnovers from Kawhi Leonard at the end of regulation, and then in overtime with James Harden, Russell Westbrook having that iconic steal with under 10 seconds to play, icing the game. Overall, I would say this is more about the Clippers than about the Nuggets. I'm trying to think of any other way to slice it, but I can't. Norman Powell deserves a lot of credit for his improvement in play. He still only shot 5 of 14 from the field, but still, being able to grow that confidence, being able to fill in that fourth role, that six-man role that he sometimes plays. Sometimes he plays the shooting guard position in the starting lineup, but sometimes they play him at the six-man, which is really good for that bench. Being able to keep that second unit fresh, being able to keep that second unit, give that second unit a chance to compete, give their starters a rest. That's the role that you want Norman Powell to be in, and he's continuing to grow into it, especially in the playoffs right now. But lamented. I said this at the end of game one. What was this, yesterday? This series is going to come down to rebounding. It happened in game one. The Clippers were up 17 points. What happened in the last few minutes? It was about the rebounding, the offensive rebounding of the Denver Nuggets that kept them in that game. The height of Michael Porter Jr., the height of Jokić and Aaron Gordon, three players that can be game wreckers if they can get hot, especially Aaron Gordon, who's an absolute X factor for this Denver Nuggets team. Only finishing with 14 points in this one, not having his best game, but we've seen him go off for 25 to 30 points from time to time. And when he does that, this Denver Nuggets team is borderline unbeatable. But yeah, it's the offensive rebounding that can kill the Clippers if they're not careful. In game one, that's what killed them down the stretch, along with turnovers. In this one, it was a similar situation. I just said Michael Porter Jr. finished with 15 rebounds in this game. Something you don't really see, but something he can do at the same time. Something that you know he's able to do in his sleep when he wants to, using his athleticism, using his height, using his strength on the post. But overall, if the shooting of we know that the Nuggets can't shoot that like the Clippers, but they can rebound far better than the Clippers, giving them more opportunities to shoot the ball. That's all that really needs to be said for this matchup. But yeah, as the series switches over to the Clippers side of things back in LA, in game 3, Kawhi Leonard has to continue to perform at a high level. It's the only way for this Clippers team to have a chance. James Harden is unbelievable. We saw him finish with over 30 points in game 1, less than 20 points in this one. Kawhi Leonard needs to be the start of the show if the Clippers are to win this series. We know he likes it that way, but he needs to be the number one threat on this Clippers team to have a chance. I really think so. There's no other way. If Kawhi Leonard can play the way he did last night for the rest of this series, there is a world where the Clippers don't lose another game. The only way that the Clippers... There's 2 ways. Well, there's 3 ways that the Clippers lose games. I mentioned in game 1 the rebounding. I mentioned in game 2 the shooting of the Clippers. The third way that this series can go down is if James Harden and Kawhi Leonard go off into a shooting match against Nikola Jokić and Jamal Murray. That is something we haven't seen, and that is something we probably have in store, probably in the later rounds. We know this series is going to go deep, easily into the 5, 6, 7 games margin. That is something we expect to see in that 5 to 7 game margin. That's one of those 3 games is going to end off the way I just described, with Jokić and Jamal Murray going shot for shot with Kawhi Leonard and James Harden, and we're going to see who's the better team in that scenario. I really don't know because it's a shootout. Once again, I would lean toward the Clippers side of things, but we know Jamal Murray can get hot. We know Aaron Gordon can play unbelievable. We know Jokić can still shoot the ball. One thing I haven't mentioned so far in this segment is Mike Malone's firing probably has a little bit of a role. Has a little bit of a role in what's going on right now with the Nuggets offensively. They haven't played as well offensively as we really expect them to be playing. Some of that can be said about some of that can be pointed to Kawhi Leonard's defense. Can be pointed to the Clippers' overall defense, coached by Ty Lue. We know he's a defensive guru. We know that they still have Jeff Van Gundy there as a defensive analyst for this team. We know the defensive mind that Jeff Van Gundy has for this team. Overall, I think the firing of Mike Malone is going to be the Achilles heel for this Nuggets team and what ends up transpiring, how deep they go in the playoffs, whether they win this series or not, whether they have success in the playoffs or not. A lot of this, everything is still going to be pointed at Mike Malone. Either it's going to be pointed at Mike Malone in a good fashion, saying this was a good idea to fire him. The Nuggets end up winning the championship. They go on a deep playoff run. They make it to the Western Conference Finals, and they play at a high level, or they lose in the first round. They continue to struggle offensively like they have down the stretch here, and we point at Mike Malone and say that's why you don't fire a coach with under 2 weeks to play, with under a week to play, especially when you're the 3 seed in the East, in the Western Conference, and how tough the Western Conference is. You don't fire a NBA champion coach, a coach that brought you to the NBA championship 2 years ago, won you the NBA championship. You don't really just you don't cut him off at the knees the way they did. That is just that's the way I see it. That is something that's not being said nearly enough as it should. And yeah, overall, I just think that's going to be the Achilles heel of this team. And it's honestly, the Clippers are playing with nearly nothing. They're playing with house money pretty much. A Clippers team that you didn't expect to play this well. The Clippers team that's burst on the scene since Kawhi Leonard came back healthy at the beginning of March, going 19-3 to finish the regular season. Now 1-1 in the playoffs. Game 1 was close as well. Game 2, another thriller. This series is going to be back and forth as we go. I really do think so. And it's going to be really interesting to see how the Denver Nuggets are able to respond in LA. We know they play well in Denver. They always have. But how are they going to play on the road? Jokic is going to have 2 monster performances on the road if the Nuggets are going to have a chance in these games. That's what I think. And Jokic hasn't really played to that level since Mike Malone's been fired. But that's neither here nor there. We'll talk more about that I believe they play on Thursday. So we'll probably talk more about that on Wednesday, for tomorrow's show. But yeah, coming up next, we're going to take a look at the Milwaukee Bucks Indiana Pacers series. Obviously, the Pacers throwing an absolute curveball to the Bucks, wiping them off the floor last night in Game 1. It's going to be really interesting to see how the Bucks respond, how Damian Lillard. We're going to give an update on Damian Lillard's injury, see if he's going to be ready to go for Game 2 of this series later today. And yeah, when we come back, we're going to take a look at Milwaukee Bucks basketball. Stay tuned.